Foremost, some instructions for today's live webinar. This is an interactive session, so we very much hope that you will get involved and you'll share with us your thoughts and your ideas and your opinions. And there are two ways to do this. You can join us via Menti. So you just go to www.menti.com and enter the code 7876680 that you can see on the slide here. So we'll leave this slide on for just a moment so you can make a note of that. Or alternatively, you can use the chat function in YouTube, for which you need to log in via YouTube. So if you are not able or not willing to log in via YouTube, then you can interact with us through Menti. So I've got it open on my side. Another thing to note is that today's webinar will be recorded, but we will not publish or share any of your personal data as a participant as part of this recording. Taking a look at today's agenda. So we're going to have a welcome and introduction to the Context Broker and CEF program by myself. That's Thomas Phillis. So I'm the event manager for the CEF building blocks in the European Commission's Informatics Directorate General, Digit. We then have Stefano de Panfilis, the Chief Operating Officer of the Fireware Foundation, who is going to take us through the Context Broker in a nutshell. We then have a presentation from the Interstat project. So we have Martino Maggio, who's Senior Project Manager at Engineering and Informatica. And then we have CEF at 4 Cities with Joachim van der Burghaert, who's the Chief Technology Officer at Crossline. So jumping straight into it, as I said, we really have a lot of stuff to cover today. So my name's Tom Phillis, and I'll be doing the quick sort of welcome and introduction. So I'd like to first discuss how can CEF Digital help you? So first and foremost, it's necessary to understand that the Connecting Europe facility, CEF, is a European Union financing instrument for trans-European interoperability. And it funds trans-European interoperability in different areas through infrastructure projects. And today we concern ourselves obviously with CEF Digital, so that is digital infrastructure and digital interoperability. This year, the CEF program actually comes to a conclusion, and the work that we do in the Commission will move forward under the Digital Europe program. Given that the EU's next long-term budget, or current long-term budget, I guess, has only recently been approved by the member states, we currently don't know exactly how the program is going to look, or at least we can't announce this in public. So this is why we still come to you under the guise of CEF. But this year, the CEF Digital program will come to a close. The CEF program will continue in other areas. And our mission is to increase the interconnection between European networks and trans-European networks, so national and international. And that is to help public administrations, businesses, and citizens benefit fully from everything that the digital transformation has to offer. We do this by promoting common standards and specifications. And we aim or have seen these implemented in 3 different ways. One is through providing technical support to public administrations and businesses in their digital transition. The other is helping them develop secure and interoperable digital services. And previously there was funding available, although under the CEF program, the grant funding has since concluded. And we package these 3 elements together in something called a building block, or a digital service infrastructure, which we know as a building block. So here we see we can meet the CEF building blocks. So this is the catalogue of building blocks that are funded currently through the CEF program. I'm going to give you a very quick introduction to each of them, but we'll not rest too long on them. So the big data test infrastructure is a sandbox environment where public administrations and public projects can experiment with data sets to sort of extract maximum value. The context broker we will discuss in more detail today. The e-archiving building block allows you to store data interoperably in the long term, also with a mind to the data's strategic reuse at subsequent points. The European blockchain services infrastructure is a blockchain infrastructure at European level, active in different areas and use cases such as self-sovereign identity or the acceptance of academic certifications. The e-invoicing building block supports the adoption of the European standard on e-invoicing. This European standard facilitates cross-border electronic invoicing and cross-border public procurement, and also opens the door to digitalization in areas such as direct payments and automatic payments. The eID, e-delivery, and e-signature building blocks all relate to the eIDAS regulation on authentication and trust services in the internal market. Now, some of you may know what eIDAS is and may not. eIDAS governs authentication, so the use of a national electronic ID when authenticating to a public service offered in another EU member state, or it governs the market in trust services. That is electronic signatures, timestamps, and e-seals that are not only technically but are legally valid in other member states, and the secure exchange of data. So the eID, e-delivery, and e-signature building blocks all support you implement the provisions of this legislation. The once-only principle is a technical architecture that means that data submitted only once by citizens and businesses is reused by public administrations in Europe, respecting European data protection legislation and lifting bureaucratic burdens for citizens and businesses and facilitating work for public administrations. And finally, e-translation is an API that can allow you websites, or is a translation tool for documents that you can be used when you want to retain the international property rights of your translated documents and ensure that what you've translated remains on European servers. So that's the family of building blocks in a quick overview. How to use a building block. There are basically three key ways. As they're standards based, you can buy a product that has been marketized by a private sector company and purchase this on the market. You can build a solution totally from scratch with the basic standards and technical specifications underpinning the building blocks, which you can find from the CEF Digital website, or you can reuse sample software that's already been prepared and is available for download from CEF Digital. But whichever way you wish to approach reusing a building block, we have dedicated teams and support desks based in the European Commission to help you in your onboarding journey to reuse a building block. When we're asking ourselves why to choose CEF Digital, obviously the goal here of the European Commission is not to compete with the market, but rather ensure that interoperable standards are at the heart of digital transformation between EU member states. But what CEF Digital does offer is speed. It is faster to deploy mature standards-based solutions that are easily scalable. It's safer because you avoid vendor lock-in, and these solutions are compliant already with the necessary EU legislation. They're future-proof, as they can be used by any project or service and have access to a larger and interconnected market. And previously, or earlier on in the CEF program, we had funding available to support the implementation of these building blocks. And sadly, at this point, we can't give you an indication of what the situation will be under CEF. So in the next part of my presentation, I'm worried I'm trespassing a little bit on the time of my colleagues, so I'll pick up the pace a little bit. Is what is Context Broker, so one of the CEF building blocks. And the Context Broker basically allows you to gather, analyze, and share content data from multiple sources in real time to make smart data-driven decisions. So basically, if you understand better what is going on around you from different sources, what is your context, you'll be able to make more informed decisions and therefore build smart and scalable applications. And that is at the heart of what we're discussing with Context Broker. First and foremost, it's a data broker, so it assembles information from different systems which may belong to different organizations instead of having them sort of performed in different silos. Context Broker leverages on investments, able to build a data marketplace of portable and interoperable solutions, and it facilitates development, reduces costs and time in the development of context information-based platforms and solutions. And experience from our side has shown that fully functioning dashboards can be up and running in a few days. Although, as mentioned at the outset, we're going to hear from some projects who reuse this building block and can share with us their experiences. Very quickly, who can benefit from the context brokers? So we would hope that all of you who've joined us here today fit into one of these kind of categories. And if you don't, then by all means, please share with us who you are and how you're looking to benefit from the context broker. Public administrations, of course, can benefit from the standards-based interoperable solution that can help you make insightful and data-driven decisions in the public sector. For solution providers, that's software and service providers, the team has the tools and support you needed to get started. We have documentation, we have onboarding managers who will help you, and we have a service desk. And for developers, so technical enablers, we provide software components, supporting documentation, and a variety of support to help get you started. A quick word on the benefits of the context broker. As mentioned earlier, it helps you make smarter decisions faster by leveraging on context data in real time and from various different sources. So this is obviously a necessary factor to create smart applications or the development of smart cities or even smart regions, which is what we see emerging in Europe. And if you see our CEF success stories, you'll see examples of smart regions. The use of standards builds an ecosystem, exploiting the same data and ensuring the ability to scale up. And it allows you to take your product to market faster because you can check your compliance with EU legislation via the conformance testing services that we offer. How does CEF Digital, as a program of the European Commission, help? Well, it offers the standards and sample software with clear documentation to get started. It ensures the connectivity and conformance testing services in the data analytics sandbox. And it supports your project through a dedicated service desk. So basically the message is you come to us and we will help you in every step of your journey should you decide to reuse the context broker. Okay, so I think that's enough of the introductory words. So at this point, I will hand over to Stefano de Panfilis, who will take us through context broker in a nutshell. Stefano.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, my name is Stefano de Panfilis. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Fire Foundation. And yes, I would like to introduce you. I should share the slides. Yes, but I see myself. I didn't see the slides on YouTube.
You can just look at the slides off your desktop, definitely.
Okay, great. Here they are. Wonderful. Sorry about that. On live issue, but it's great. So yes, I am a Chief Operating Officer at the Fire Foundation and supporting the further development and evolution of context broker in this initiative that is CEF, which is great in order to, yes, support further adoption. So yes, next slide, please. So basically, we all know that in our context, the situation is complex. We are overflowed on data continuously. They come from different sources, many different contexts and environments. So for instance, even in this case of a smart city, you may see data coming from any different possibility, from status of buildings, status of shops, traffic, of course, pollution, and so on. So there are many that define and share the way our context looks like, and they change, of course, every second, every instant, most of them. So the issue here and what the context broker is about is to find a way to provide applications to have those data available in a simple manner, in a standard manner, in a way that can be used in order to take decisions from the point of view of systems. In fact, what is important to say that the context broker doesn't do much more than what we do as human beings every second and every day in our life. So before whatever we have to do, we look around us and understand the context. So before exiting our home in the morning, we check the weather forecast just in case we have to take an umbrella or not, just to make an example. So this is what Context Broker does for ICT systems. Unfortunately, next slide, please. The situation is that the information they come and they often are owned by departments of even sometimes in the same organization in silos. This is the reality. This reality can be changed. The issue here is that there are good and maybe historical reasons why this reality is there. So perhaps organizations that were born and merge so that they come with different repositories of data, or simply because they started to implement technologies different ways and so on. But still, their applications are there. They are good if they're still there. So the adoption here that we want to show is an adoption that leverage on existing investments and is not just wasting. Okay. Okay, great. So, so here, what is the goal that are behind the Context Broker? First, and this it is very important, is that the data that we are getting from the various systems are data that are real-time or quasi-real-time. So it's important to understand that the content that is now in order to take a decision. If I understand, if I have data about my context that are of maybe the previous day or even before, they are not useful. So it's important to know that the bus is arriving at the station, at the bus stop, in order to get it before the bus arrives, not after the bus is arrived or even left. So it's important to have real-time data or quasi-real-time data. Then the second objective is that we are able to process such information in a way that we can take decisions. So this is why the second element of importance of the Context Broker is provided access to data in a standard way. In a standard, the standard is NGSILD, which is promoted by ETSI, the European Standardization Body on Telecommunication, which define exactly the way this can be, the data can be accessed in a standard way. And this means understood by not only by computers, but also shared by different organizations. The third goal is that the component that the standard is used is that this is open to allow the creation of ecosystem around the solutions. So with all this in mind, what happens is that, next slide, please. What happens is that we create a specific layer that is able to create a data interoperability layer between the different silos. So breaking the silos, but not destroying the silos, but not destroying them, but leverage on them. So this way, information that are defined or managed by in different one of the different silos can be shared according to the others. It is normally one of the cases that, for instance, the notion of citizen is managed in different places. In some places we have some information, in other places we have some other one, but in this layer of standardization, we can create a holistic view of the concept of citizen that maybe provide good insights also to the system generating the information. So breaking the silos without destroying the silos. So leveraging on what is existing. In the next slide, in fact, I will show you an important example that one of the members of the FIRE Foundation implemented in order to trace and to create a system in the fight against COVID-19. This is a system which has been implemented by engineering informatica, which by chance is also today here in this webinar by Martino. We'll talk about another project, but not this one. But I use this example always to show how good and how important is this notion of sharing information. That is, in the fight of COVID-19, we know that data may belong to many different stakeholders. So, for instance, the labs that they make the tests on people, the doctors that manage the people, the place where these people live, the place where they eventually work, and so on. All of those information are managed and belong to different stakeholders. The problem is that only putting them together was possible to create a dashboard. Next slide, please. That was able to show in a integrated, heterogeneous, and homogeneous way all the information, so that to know when a person became positive, to alert the doctor, to alert the neighbors, to alert the co-workers, and so on. So to trace everything on time. And this really quite helpful, of course, in this fight of COVID-19. But the interesting part is the use of context broker allow the creation of this layer, the breaking the silos without destroying them, because still the labs, they have their own data repository, their work environment, they have their own data repository, and so on. But this put all together in order to provide an additional level of information, to leverage on top, to create added value by the integration of the data. Interesting to say that because of this approach of leveraging on existing solutions, that this application was developed in only 5 days and was adopted by different public administrations in Europe, started by Italy. So with this, simply I would conclude my presentation here, giving the floor to Martino and Joachim to go more in depth describing their wonderful projects.
Thanks, Stefano. Martino, please.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm Martino Maggio. I work for Engineering Informatica, the largest Italian ICT company, with a strong presence also in different countries of the world. Now, today I'm going to present the Intersat project. It's a CEF project that was founded with the 2019 calls related to the open data. And today I'm going to present the main objectives of the project and the role of the context broker in the technical framework of this project. So, first slide, please. It's about the objective of Intersat project. The project is mainly focused on the topic of public open data, and in particular is verticalized on the domain of the statistical open data. In particular, the main objective is to develop a framework to allow the interoperability, to reach the interoperability between statistical national data portal and European data portal, and the possibility to access to this information with common and unique API, using different typology of technical assets, including the context broker and also common ontologies and linked data technology. Next, please. So basically, in order to give more information about the specific objectives of the project, we can say that, as I said, the first one is to enable interoperability among the different national statistical portal and the European data portal. This is very important because we want to reach this complete interoperability between the information that are coming from the national statistical portal and the traditional provisioning through the European data portal of the open data, using existing standards and tools that can allow the automation of this metadata harmonization and data publication. Inside the project, one of the topic is to provide standards, reuse and foster existing standards and methodologies to achieve this data harmonization, specifically in the field of linked open statistical data. And the usage, this is a key point that we are going to talk today, the usage of the CEF contest broker building block through the reusage of this new standard API, the NGSILD API specification for the provisioning of the information, and also to provide tools to simplify the view of statistical data, the visualization and the analysis. And all these solutions, all these technologies will be validated through the piloting of cross-border services in the domain of population and households census, reusing this harmonized statistical data that we are going to provide inside the project. Next slide, please. This slide, it's a very high-level representation of the idea of the technical framework of Interstat. There are a lot of technical details that I don't want to discuss, but anyway, there is this slide as a future reference for the reader. Anyway, I show this only to specify that the framework is composed by several elements. I forgot to mention at the beginning that very important information that the consortium of this project that is composed by engineering as a coordinator, Fireware Foundation as also a key partners in the exploitation, dissemination, and the provisioning of the contest broker. But also we have two main key partners that are the ISTAT, that is the Italian National Institute for Statistical Data, and inside that is the French one, so the French National Institute for Statistical Data. That are also in this project the data provider will provide the different statistical data. Through the idea is to this Interstat technical framework to harmonize the data, to provide compound capabilities and ontologies in order to finally provide the data through different standard API and also create a bridge between the statistical world, the statistical domain, and the open data domain. Also through the usage of CEF contest broker in particular. And is also, in this picture, is also specifically highlighted the role of the CEF contest broker inside of this complex architecture in conjunction with Hydra, that is another tool that I'm going to present today that is also related to Fireware because it's a incubated generic enabler that will interact with the contest broker to create this bridge between statistical data and open data. Next slide, please. So this is, yes, few words about this component, Hydra, that is a open data federation platform, is an open source software that has the objective to federate and harmonize metadata from dataset coming from heterogeneous sources, so that can be classical open data portal or different type of repository, and able to harmonize the data and provide it through standard API, through standard technologies that are also compliant with the European data portal, and at the same time is able to interact and federate the CEF contest broker. Next slide, please. These slides show the idea how the contest broker can help. It's probably a bit technical, but it shows the concrete usage of the CEF contest broker in Interstat that will be used to provide through his approach based on publish subscribe notification about changes on metadata publications related to open data that can be represented through NGSI LD data models. So once, for example, a dataset changes or new dataset is published, this can be notified through the NGSI LD API, and also on the contrary, the information that flow through the context broker can be federated by Hydra and then provided through a traditional open data portal. So in this way, the idea is to create this bridge between the statistical portal, the open data portal, and the context broker and NGSI LD API, also for the provisioning of this information through third-party clients. Next slide, please. So this is also the idea, and to create this bridge also from existing standard, for example, the DCAT-IP meta model and the NGSI LD API, creating models that can be a model for DCAT-IP in NGSI LD and the models in order to be shared and published through the context broker. So this will be one of the tasks, or the different tasks that we will have in our project. And finally, in order to underline which can be the advantages to adopt the context broker in a context as the interest of projects, is the possibility to access to traditional open data and open statistical data via NGSI LD standards, the possibility to publish via NGSI LD datasets that can be so harvested by European Data Portal or other third-party clients that can access to this, take advantage for the notification, also not for real-time dataset, but can be also used for changes in datasets that are not strictly real-time, as for example the statistical dataset, and the possibility to enable interoperability at both metadata and data level through the adoption of common vocabulary. So this are some of the advantages in the use of the context broker technology, CEF context broker, in our project. So I'm closing this presentation, and I left here the contact related to the project, the website, so you can contact me or the website for further information about Interstat. Thank you very much.
That's excellent. Thanks a lot, Martino. Okay, we'll move straight on into the next presentation, ahead of the Q&A. So Joachim, please.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Joachim. I'm CTO at Crosslang, and today I will be presenting the CEF at First Cities project, sponsored by CEF Telecom, and aiming at bringing e-government closer to EU citizens and applications using language technology and the CEF context broker. The consortium is headed by Crosslang. We specialize in machine translation and natural language processing. And we have Coreon, a company specialized in knowledge management, the Fiber Foundation providing the context broker, and then the business agencies of the cities of Brussels and Vienna, who will be providing use cases for our project. Let me first introduce to why we wanted to start this project. The reason is, this is the first reason, because there is, as it appears in the yearly held e-government benchmark, there is a serious lack of e-government implementation. And if you look at the graph here, you see that there are countries who are leading the pack, and that there are also countries who are following. And if you talk about e-government, what does it, e-government implementation, what does it mean to follow? It means basically that there are still too many paper-based workflows that citizens have to follow to communicate with their government. So one of the solutions was to take an inventory of all the procedures that already exist on the one hand, and on the other hand, to take an inventory of paper-based workflows and then create tools to help transition smart cities or cities in general from paper-based workflows to digitized workflows. And the next slide, we see that there's also a second problem. And the second problem consists of the fact that there is a lack of cross-border accessibility, meaning that if you go from one EU country to another EU country, for example, to study or to live there, then it's difficult to communicate with your government in your own language. So the take on this is that we want to transition paper-based workflows to digitized workflows, and at the same time, we want to do this in multiple languages across Europe. And the languages we're starting with are Croatian, Dutch, English, French, German, Italian, Norwegian, and Slovenian. Now, in the next slide, we show you how we will be doing this. So if you want to serve the smart cities, you have to make sure that they're all involved. So one of the main aspects will be to get them on board and to evangelize our solution. Then, of course, the second challenge is integrating the CEF e-translation service, which provides translations for our data, and the context broker, so that we can publish all our data on the local intranets. And then the third one is, of course, developing the tools based on natural language processing and AI. And this is what we are currently working on very hard. And then finally, we also want to bring our solutions to the broader audience of application developers and smart cities. And so we will be organizing hackathons to which all of you are, of course, heartily invited. Now, to go a bit deeper into the technical details, we prepared a movie that shows you what it really is that we are doing, because sometimes it can become quite complex.
For a moment, let's imagine what Google for smart cities could look like. If you go to Google right now and search for how to obtain a passport, the answer you get is already pretty nice. It contains a list of steps right on the search page. You either follow these steps or you use the link to click through. Unfortunately, the result you get only applies to US citizens. Let's try the same for, say, Ghent, the city I live in and from where I am typing this query. The first result is correct and leads me to the information I am looking for, but it lacks the nicely summarized layout. In addition, I am directed to a Dutch website while my query was in English. Unless you speak Dutch or you use a translation tool, the content is not of great help. Now, here's an idea. What if we could make the search page look like this? A nice overview in my own language is presented and gives me focused access to the information I need. The results page lists all the required steps to be taken and is actually a summarized, structured version of the website we visited earlier. This summary tells me that I need to be a Belgian citizen, I need to bring some money, depending on how urgent the request is and on how old I am, I need to bring a recent picture, and so on. There are two interesting questions we can ask here. The first one is, how does Google create a summarized version of all the web pages it collects? The second, more important question is, should we rely on Google to extract this sort of information for our cities, or should we take control over the discoverability of our city's public services instead? This is where the CEF for Cities project comes in. In this project, we want to make public services discoverable for EU citizens in their own language, from anywhere, not just from the Google search page. We also want to do this for any app developer. If we succeed in doing this, lots of opportunities are created. For example, it will be possible to create truly intelligent chatbots that can be deployed at any city. The bot will not only understand that you are looking for a passport, it will also be able to connect the dots for you. It will tell you where you should get the passport, how much it will cost, what the conditions are, and so on. In other words, chatbots will not only recognize what people are looking for, but thanks to the structured information the CEF for Cities project will create, they will also be able to understand which steps must be taken and guide the citizen through public service processes. To achieve all this, we put AI at work. We teach the AI how to recognize public services across cities and languages. We use the CEF e-translation service to assist us in obtaining multilingual training data. We use the CEF context broker to publish all information on local smart cities networks. By doing so, we will effectively create a European Internet of Public Services.
Okay, so this was a very high-level overview of what the project is about and what we're going to do. To give you an idea what the progress is in the project so far, we prepared a short demo of an application that we developed and shows how it can help people that are tasked with transitioning the paper workflow to a digitized workflow. So yeah, please you can play the video now.
So let's go to our login page. Here we can log in with a Google account. And after we have logged in, we arrive at the main screen of our application. On the top row, you see the menu items, and in the screen itself, you see a listing of web pages that have been scraped by the CEF for Cities engine and that have been automatically classified. As you can see, the auto classifier, as we name it, has tagged all the documents within the repository, and it either rejects it or it accepts it. What we can do here is have a look at a couple of statistics. So here are the number of documents that have been scraped, and the green bar shows how many of the documents have already been processed either automatically or by hand. We can now have a look at the filters. So first of all, we have here a drop down that lists all the municipalities or cities of which the websites have been scraped. And let's go, for example, and have a look at the city of Ghent. Then we see that we have here already a couple of accepted documents. And right now we're interested in, for example, this one. This shows us how to request a permit for playing amplified music. If we click on it, we can see the document properties, content, and also if we want to look at the page in its original context, and we can render an HTML version of the page, which is still quite rudimentary because of during processing, most of the JavaScript and other things have been thrown out because they're not required for natural language processing. And then here you can see we have the choice to either accept the website page or to reject it. With this information, we will later retrain our natural language processing system so that it can better classify. So as a result, the more you validate documents within this interface, the better the classification will become. Now, so here we see an example of how to accept and to reject. And let's go with accepted. The next thing that we want to do is maybe reset the filter so we can issue a new search. This is done here. And then we want to search, for example, for a keyword that has been automatically indexed by the indexing system in the background. and then this gives us all the documents in which this word occurs. So this was the section about the scraped web pages. Let's now go and continue with the terms. In this section, we collect and display all terms that have been extracted from the scraped web pages that have been accepted by the system. When we talk about terms, we're not talking about keywords that have been collected through regular document indexing, but we talk about terms that have been extracted using natural language processing algorithm for term extraction. Basically, we look at words that occur frequently in very specific documents. So once we have collected all these terms, they're displayed here, and we can do the same as with the web pages. We can perform a query, for example, the word attest, which means certificate. And if we search for this, then again, we get all the documents in which this term occurs, and we can look at the properties, and this gives us a nice listing of all the documents in which terms occur. The next section is the CP SVAP section. So this stands for Core Public Services Vocabulary Application Profile. In here we have all the public services that have been collected. So what we do is we do not only extract the terms from all the pages that we scrape, but we also look for public services as a whole. And this is still work in progress. What we want to do here is we want to list every public service here along with its components. And one of the components in the CPSV-AP profile is, for example, the contact points, but you also have the costs, you also have criterion and evidence and that sort of things. And what we do here is we collect everything and we extract the relations so that in the background actually you have the link between all the concepts that have been found, and all this is stored in the backend in an RDF database. Then we come to the final section where we have the input of our scraper. So here you can add new web pages. We also want to add documents that have not been scraped, but for example that contain useful information for a system, and then you just have to upload it, and the whole pipeline starts whenever a new document is uploaded, or on a regular basis when new pages on city websites occur or when they get updated. That's it.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Joachim, and thanks a lot to all our speakers today. I think they were really interesting presentations. So now is the opportunity for us to have a bit more of an informal chat. As for those of you who can see my video, you'll see we're in my kitchen. I was trying to find a view to give me the least number of chins, and this in my kitchen was the best place to do it. So we've had a question from a participant in the YouTube channel. So it's from the Last Mile team, who are talking about a potential urban logistics project that they were considering the context broker for. So I was wondering, Stefano, I don't know if you're familiar with projects we're using the context broker in the logistics area, or if you have any points on sort of why the context broker is quite useful for projects in this domain.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, and thank you also Last Mile team for this question. Yes, actually, when context broker was born, before getting to the CEF, there were some projects investigating this exact topic, which is rather interesting. And currently, in the success stories we publish in CEF, you have something that is similar, but of course not exactly, because people move to other things. But I suggest certainly you to browse. I put the link in the chat. But if you go on the CEF Digital homepage, then you are also able to find the success stories in adopting context broker, but also other building blocks. And so, but in general, my suggestion is that you follow quite straightforward approach. As I said in my presentation, first it's important to understand the exact context around you, and in this case around the application. So which are the concepts of interest, and if this, and of those contexts of interest, which are the attributes you need to evaluate. And then once you have them, you may even understand who are the players who provide this information and can benefit from those players. I mean, not necessarily only human beings, but here in most of the case, particularly in the logistic domain, I feel sensors and browsers and RFID tools and these kind of things that normally are used in that. So I think as such, it fits quite well. It fits quite well, the logistics sector in use and context broker in it. But yes, this is the first thing to do, because exactly in the logistics, you necessarily may not have information coming from a single kind of source, so it will be very much heterogeneous. So this is why having a layer that is able to benefit from all these heterogeneous homogenize them, and then providing for further analysis. I think this is a quite important step. But yes, we can eventually discuss more about this, and I'm further happy to support you in this endeavor.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Stefano, and thanks for the question from the team at Last Mile. I can see that you're working on building digital twins in 6 European cities and have identified the need for context info and set up a Docker infrastructure. So I shared in the chat, you will have seen the sort of general email address to reach out to the CEF Digital team. And if you go to the CEF Digital website, you can get in touch with us there via the Surface Desk, and the teams will help get you started, of which Stefano is an advisor. So moving on with the questions, I mean, Joachim, I'd like to come with a question to you. So obviously you've implemented the context broker and the CEF translation building blocks to realize your project. And I understand that you have a knowledge of other digital service infrastructures, such as the Europeana DSI, which is active in the cultural sector. Do you see areas in which we can scale up even more for more innovative projects combining these building blocks and DSI like Europeana?
Thank you so much. That's indeed a very good question. And this is actually what the hackathons that we will be organizing will be about. The question will be how to integrate other data and how to create applications with the data that we provide. And Europeana is a very good case because in the project, in the CEF for Cities project, we will, just to keep it simple, we were going to make the public services available through the context broker and open link data formats such as CPS VIP. But it is also possible to ingest other data like Europeana and then combine that. Because one of the challenges is we want to make sure that every public service, also musea, for example, publish that data, and we want to assist them in achieving this. And so if you would combine for example, the city information that you already have, like maps, and the Europeana data about where cultural artifacts and landmarks are located, and then combine that with the public data of opening hours and fees and whatnot that you get from musea, then this would give you the perfect combination to create an app, for example, that creates custom walks along parks and museum and landmarks. So yeah, I think it's very much possible, and that's something that we would very much like to encourage.
Okay, well, it sounds very COVID friendly as well. I mean, these are sort of sometimes the only walks we can do. So I think that sounds very cool. Martino, I just wanted to come back to you, and obviously your project references the European data portal as well, so you're quite well integrated into the environment of data sharing and use of the CEF building blocks for these kinds of projects and platforms. Have you analyzed looking at any other CEF building blocks in your project? Do you see any?
Yeah. Even we are using and focus in our project in the usage of the context broker. I think that there could be different interesting building blocks that can be reused in our context. I think in particular we can take in consideration the translation, because it's fundamental to overcome the language barrier that we have when we use open data and statistical data across Europe. So in order not to simply standardize the metadata, but also to find a tool to overcome the language problem. So translation is definitely something that can be used. And also, I think it's possible to integrate the EID, because as I said, our project will experiment cross-border services. And when we talk about cross-border services, even we are talking about open data, if we are talking about personalized services, we need a way to easy access across different online services, and the EID can be a solution.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Martino. We've had a question in the YouTube chat. Have we seen examples of context broker used together with e-delivery to contextualize and to transport the data? Stefano, are you familiar with any of the context broker and e-delivery projects?
Unfortunately, not. There are differences. We were thinking on how to integrate this. We had some meetings because there are clear complementarities between the two building blocks, but the approach is different in the sense that e-delivery is mostly peer-to-peer, but still there is a working group that is intended to provide certain guidelines of the topic.
Okay, great. Exactly. We'll do some research there. Okay, so thank you very much for submitting that question. So I'll give a moment for any final questions that come in. In the meantime, we also ask you kindly to fill in the satisfaction survey for this webinar. It's been posted in the chat of the YouTube channel, as well as a, I guess, rhetorical question in Mentimeter. And obviously this helps us behind the scenes to analyze how we're doing and make improvements and hopefully keep improving our webinars. Okay, so voila, I mean, I think there are no more questions coming in and we're bang on time, which is best practice. So from me, a massive thank you to our speakers, to Stefano, to Joachim, and to Martino. Also to the wonderful Mr. Erbil Kopp, who has been producing this session and been very busy behind the scenes. So a recording of this webinar will be published on the event page on which you registered. And here we'll also post answers to the questions. So from me and from all our presenters, we just like to say thank you for watching today, and we look forward to speaking with you again. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.